It all began back in 1950 with the publication of the best-selling book, Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health by L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard, previously a writer of pulp fiction, claimed to have discovered after years of research that man was unable to handle his own problems, that he needed help. Thus was born Scientology, a religion that says it can reveal to an individual a practical way to find himself, more fully to realize himself. Hubbard, a recluse who hasn't been seen in years, invented something called the E-meter. Church ministers or auditors use the meter to measure an individual's nervous responses, much in the way a lie detector does. Scientologists claim the E-meter can help locate their past unhappy experiences and by so doing blanch them out, help them to reach a state of clear, of self-realization. And there are the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard, thousands of pages. Hubbard on ethics, on justice, on high finance. Scientology has attracted, according to its own estimates, upwards of 6 million followers worldwide. People like actor John Travolta, who was interviewed by Pat Collins of CBS News.
The beliefs and practices that I have studied in Scientology have been invaluable to me.
Have you ever met Ron Hubbard?
I'd love to. I'd be honored because I think he's so brilliant.
Well, Travolta isn't the only Scientologist who has never seen Hubbard. Hardly any Scientologists have ever seen him. This 1966 interview, produced by the Church of Scientology, is one of the few glimpses anyone will ever get of the man.
Man is asleep. He is hypnotized. In Scientology, reverse the process, and you make him wake up. And he gradually gets more and more alert, and he's more and more wide awake, and his IQ rises higher and higher, and he is more and more capable of knowing what's going on about him.
But according to the Scientologists, the U.S. government early on began to harass L. Ron Hubbard and his church. And it is true that as early as the 1950s, Scientology came under the scrutiny of various government agencies. The Food and Drug Administration was skeptical about the use of the E-meter. The FDA considered it not a religious artifact, but a medical device. And both the FBI and the IRS have, over the years, launched investigations into Scientology and into L. Ron Hubbard, without any formal charges ever being brought against the man.
He has inspired hatred. Some men have inspired love, and this is sad because his most ardent ambition, he has told his followers to use this phrase. It's his phrase. He wants to be known, and tears come to their eyes when they say it. He wants to be known as the friend of man.
Author Omar Garrison, not himself a Scientologist, was commissioned by the church to write the Hubbard biography.
He wants to clear this planet of war, of crime, and of disease. And he sincerely believes that he has the formula for doing it.
Part of that formula has been to expose government scandals like the CIA's germ warfare tests on unknowing subjects, and to expose government invasions of privacy. But aside from the good works that Scientology has done, some former Scientologists describe a church that has become overzealous, sometimes almost paranoid about anyone perceived as an enemy. For instance, in 1980, we interviewed Paulette Cooper. She had written a book critical of Scientology. So to try to silence her, the so-called Guardian's Office of the church cooked up a scheme to steal Cooper's stationery and make it appear that she had sent the church 2 bomb threats, a crime she did not commit.
And as a result, I was arrested. I was indicted on 3 counts. I faced up to 15 years in jail if I was convicted. The whole ordeal fighting these charges took 8 months. It cost me $19,000 in legal fees. I went into such a depression. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't write. I went down to 83 pounds. Finally, I took and passed a sodium pentothal, or a truth serum test, and the government dropped the charges against me in 1975.
Another church plot against Cooper was called Operation Freakout, intended to get her placed in a mental institution until she stopped writing about Scientology. Church officials even launched a graffiti campaign against Cooper.
They put my name up on walls in New York City where I live with my phone number so people would call me. They put my name on pornographic mailing lists so that I would get all kinds of disgusting mail. You see, for years I was saying that these types of things were going on. And people thought, well, what is she talking about? This is a church. And finally, after 11 years, I see that everything I said was true and that Scientology turned out to be worse than anything I'd ever said or even imagined.
Paulette Cooper has since come to a legal settlement with the church. In 1980, these two church spokesmen had told us that the kinds of things done to Paulette Cooper were committed by a small group of overzealous Scientologists. But more recently, listen to what this woman says happened to her after she left Scientology and began to speak out.
I have been harassed. I have been sued twice. I have been followed. I have had people at my workplace try to get me fired who were Scientologists. I have had private investigators go to former employers and tell them I was a missing person and my parents were looking for me to find my address.
Laurel Sullivan was for 8 years the personal public relations officer to L. Ron Hubbard himself. Because she so admired the man, she says, she ignored the negative aspects of Scientology.
I chose not to know things. There are things that don't quite add up. But when he tells you something, you believe it.
Sullivan says that thousands of Scientologists are turning a blind eye to much of what goes on in Scientology.
They have chosen not to read the press about Scientology if it's negative. They have chosen not to question themselves. They have chosen not to question, why am I here?
Even Omar Garrison, one time a Scientology sympathizer, has had second thoughts.
I think at the moment that the organization, the cult, is in the hands of the most fanatical followers, adherents of Mr. Hubbard, who you could equate with the followers of Ayatollah Khomeini.